Hey, what is up, everybody? I am here to give you my Read Aloud series for The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, Chapter 25. And this chapter, and I'm doing it outside too because I figured it's nice enough to do so. So, yeah, pretty happy about that. So, this chapter um, is called Search of Treasure. Actually, no. Actually, yeah, it's called Search of Treasure. And this chapter starts on page 161 and it ends on page 169. So I'm just going to get right into it. If you want to check out my read aloud series for chapters 1 through 24, click on the playlist down in the description box below. And I'm just going to get right into it. I got a bookmark so that way I can just open right up to it. Um, so yeah, this chapter is called, like I said, Search for Treasure. There comes a time in every rightly constructed boy's life when when he has a raging desire to go somewhere and dig for hidden treasure. This desire suddenly came upon Tom one day. He sailed out to find Joe Harper but failed of success. Next he sought Ben Rogers. He had gone fishing. Presently he stumbled upon Huck Finn, the red-handed. Huck would answer. Tom took him to a private place and opened the matter to him um, conveniently. Confidently. Huck was willing. Huck was always willing to take a hand in any enterprise that offered entertainment and required no capital, for he had a troublesome superabundance of that sort of time, which is not money. Where'll we dig? Said Huck. Almost anywhere. Why is it hid all around? No, indeed. Um, It ain't. It's hid in mighty particular places. Huck sometimes on islands, sometimes in rotten chests under the end of a limb of an old tree, just where the shadow falls at midnight, but mostly under the floor in um haunted houses. Who hides it? Why, robbers, of course. Who do you reckon? Sunday school superintendents? I don't know. If to if 'twas mine, I wouldn't hide it. I'd spend it and have a good time. Which is a good point. I always kind of wonder, like, why people always hide treasure instead of finding it. Like, well, instead of spending it or something, or because then people can just come dig for it. Let's see what he answers though. Um. So would I, but robbers don't do that. They always hide it and leave it there. Don't they come after it anymore? No, they think they will, but they generally forget the marks or else they die. Um, anyway, it lays there a long time and gets rusty, and by, somebody finds an old yellow paper that tells how to find the mark. A paper that's got to be ciphered over about a week because it's mostly signs and hieroglyphics. Which? Hieroglyphics, pictures and things, that don't seem to mean anything. Have you got one of them papers, Tom? No. Well, then how do you, how you going to find the marks? I don't want any marks. They always bury it under a haunted house or an, on an island or under a tree that's got one limb sticking out. Well, I've tried Jackson's Island a little, and we can try it again sometime. And there's the old haunted house up the Stillhouse branch, and there's lots of dead limb trees, dead loads of them. It's under all of them. How you talk? No. They then how you going to know which one to go for? Go for all of them. Why, Tom? It'll take all summer. Well, what of that? Suppose you find a brass pot with $100 in it, all rusty and gray, or a rotten chest full of diamonds. How's that? Huck's eyes glowed. That's bully. Plenty bully enough for me. Just you give me the $100 and I don't want no diamonds. All right, but I bet you I ain't going to throw off on diamonds. Some of 'em's worth $20 a piece. There ain't any hardly but worth 6 bits or $1. No, is that so? Certainly. Anybody, anybody'll tell you so. Haven't you ever seen one, Huck? No, as I remember. Oh, kins have slathers of them. Well, I don't know no kins, Tom. I reckon you don't, but if you was to go to Europe, you'd see a raft of 'em hopping around. Do they hop? Hop? Your granny. No. Well, why did you say that for? Shucks, I only meant you'd see 'em not hopping, of course. What do they want to hop for? But I mean, you just see 'em scattered around, in a kind of a general way, like the old humpbacked Richard. Richard, what's his other name? He didn't have any other name. Kins don't have any but a given name. No, but they don't. Well, if they like it, Tom, all right, but I don't want to be a kin and have only just a given name, like a nigger. That's literally what it says. But say, where you you going to dig first? Well, I don't know. Suppose we tackled that old dead um, limb tree or the hill to other side of Stillhouse Branch. I'm agreed. So they got a crippled pick and a shovel and set out on their 3 mile tramp. They arrived hot and painted and threw themselves down in the shade of a neighboring elm to rest and have a smoke. I like this, said Tom. So do I. Say, Huck, if we find a treasure here, what are you going to do with your share? Well, I'll have pie and a glass of soda every day, and I'll go to every circus that comes along. I bet I'll have a gay time. Well, ain't you going to save any of it? Save it? What for? Why, so as to have something to live on by and by. Oh, that ain't any use. Pap would come back to fish your town someday and get his claws on it if I didn't hurry up. And I tell you, he'd clean it out pretty quick. What you going to do with yourn, Tom? I'm going to buy a new drum and a sure enough sword and a red necktie and a ball pit and get married. Married? That's it. Tom, why you ain't in your right mind. Wait, you'll see. With that's the foolish thing you could do. Look at Pap and my mother. Fight. Why, they used to fight all the time. I remember mighty well. That ain't anything. The girl I'm going to marry won't fight. Tom, I reckon they'll all alike. They'll all comb a body. Now you better think about this a while. I tell you bet I tell you, you better. What's the name of the gal? It ain't a gal at all. It's a girl. It's all the same. I reckon some says um gal, some says girl. Both right. Like enough. Anyway, what's her name, Tom? I'll tell you sometime, not now. All right, that'll do. Only if you get married, I'll be more lonesomer than ever. No, you won't. You'll come and live with me. Now stir out of this and we'll go digging. They worked and sweated for half an hour. No results. They toiled another half an hour, still no results. Huck said, do they always bury it as deep as this? Sometimes, not always, not generally. I reckon we haven't got the right place. So they chose a new spot and began again. The labor dragged a little, but still they made progress. They pegged away in silence for some time. Finally, Huck leaned on his shovel, swapped the bedded drops from his brow with his sleeve, and said, where are you going to dig next after we get this one. I reckon maybe we'll tackle the old tree that's over yonder on Cardiff, Cardiff Hill, back of the windows. I reckon that'll be a good one. But won't the window take it away from us, Tom? It's on her land. She'd take it away. Maybe she'd like to try it once. Whoever um, finds one of these hid treasures, it belongs to him. It don't make any difference whose land it's on. That was satisfactory. The work went on. By and by, Huck said, "Blame me, we must be in the wrong place again. What do you think?" "It is mighty curious, Huck. I don't understand it. Sometimes witches interfere. I reckon maybe that's what's the trouble now." "Shucks, witches ain't got no power in the daytime." "Well, that's so. I didn't think of that. Oh, I know what the matter is. What a blame lot of fools we are. You gotta find out where the shadow of the lime falls at midnight, and that's where you dig. Then confound it. We've fooled away all this work for nothing. Now, hey, ain't it all? We got to come back in the night. It's an awful long way. Can you get out?" "I bet I will. We've got to do it tonight, too, because if somebody sees these holes, they'll know in a minute what's here and they'll go for it." "Well, I'll come around and meow tonight." "All right, let's hide the tools in the bushes." The boys were there that night about the appointed time. They sat in the shadow waiting. It was a lonely place, and an hour made solemn by old tradition. Spirits whispered in the rustling leaves. Ghosts lurked in the murky nooks. The deep baying of a hound floated up out of the distance. An owl answered with his um, septu- sepulchral note. The boys were subdued by these um, solemnities and talked a little. By and by they judged that 12 had come. They marked where where the shadow fell and began to dig. Their hopes commenced to rise. Their interest grew stronger and their industry kept pace with it. The hole deepened and still deepened, but every time their hearts jumped to hear the picks strike upon something, they only suffered a new disappointment. It was only a stone or a chuck. At last, Tom said, "It ain't any use, Huck. We're on again." "Well, but we can't be won. We spotted the shadow to a dot." "I know, but then there's another thing." "What's that?" "Why, we only guessed at that time. Like enough it was too late. Too late, late or too early." Huck dropped his shovel. "That's it," said he. "That's the very trouble. We got to give this up. We can't ever tell the right time, and besides, this kind of thing's too awful here this time of night with witches and ghosts a fluttering around so." Now, before I continue, uh, here was a picture of Tom and Huck digging for the treasure. I just want to make sure I pointed that out. I don't know if you saw it because of the sunlight, but whatever. I feel as if something's behind me all the time, and I'm afeared of to turn around because maybe there's others in front are waiting for a chance. Been creeping all over ever since I got here. Well, I've been pretty much so too, Huck. The most always they most always put in a dead man when they bury a treasure under a tree to look out for it. Lordy, yes they do. I've always heard that. Tom, I don't like to fool around much where there's dead people. A body's bound to get into trouble with 'em, sure. I don't like to stir 'em up either. Suppose this one here was to stick his skull out and say something. Don't, Tom. It's awful. Well, it's just it is just it just is, Huck. I don't feel comfortable a bit. Say, Tom, let's give this place up and try somewhere else. All right, I reckon we better. What'll it be? Tom considered a while and then said, "The haunted house. That's it. Blame it. I don't like haunted houses, Tom. Why, they're a darn sight worse'n dead people. Dead people might talk, maybe, but they don't come sliding around in a shroud when you ain't noticing, and peep over your shoulder all of a sudden and grit their teeth the way a ghost does. I couldn't stand such a thing, and as such a thing as that, Tom. Nobody could. Yes, but Huck, ghosts don't travel only don't travel around only at night. They won't hinder us from digging there in the daytime. Well, that's so, but you know mighty well people don't go about that haunted house at the day nor the night. Well, that's mostly because they don't like to go where a man's been murdered. Um, anyway, but nothing's ever been seen around that house except in the night. Just some blue lights slipping in by the windows, no regular ghosts. Well, where you see one of them blue lights flickering around, Tom, you can't bet there's a ghost mighty close behind it. It stands to reason because you know that they don't anybody but ghosts use them. I think those blue lights they're talking about is maybe police lights. Yes, that's so, but anyway, they don't come around in the daytime. So what's the use of our being feared? Well, that all right. We'll tackle the haunted house if you say so, but I reckon it's taking chances. They had started down the hill by this time. There, in the middle of the moonlit, the moonlit valley, below them stood the haunted house, utterly isolated, its fences gone long ago, rank weeds smothering the very doorsteps, the chimney crumbled to ruin the window sashes vacant, a corner of the roof caved in. The boys gazed a while, half expecting to see a blue light flit um past a window, then talking in a low tone as befitted the time and the circumstances, they stuck far off to the right to give the haunted house a wide berth and took their way homeward through the woods that adorned the rearward side of Codiff Hill. And then that's the end of the chapter. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna close my book. So this video wasn't too long. It was only about 18 minutes. Overall, I thought this was actually a pretty good chapter. I love the thrill of chasing for the treasure. I like the way that Mark Twain described certain things. I liked Tom talking about how he wants to get married, the things that we're gonna get by and stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Um, so overall, I thought this was a pretty good chapter. Um, and a nice read through. I like the way that certain things was explained, like the haunted house and stuff. And overall, I enjoyed it. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for more content, and make sure you click on the bell so that way every time you upload a video on here, you guys will get the notification for it. And make sure you do the same for my CM Brothers channel. Subscribe to that channel for content, and make sure you click on the bell on that channel for so that way every time I upload a video on there, you guys will get a notification for it. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.